On today's show, the Cavs series win over Toronto took a little bit longer than it probably should have. It was a little bit more difficult than it probably should have been, but the Cavs are going to be better for it. I'll explain on this edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi again, everybody. My name is Danny Cunningham, and I cover the Cleveland Cavaliers over at my Substack, The Inside Shot, and you're listening to the latest edition of Locked On Cavs, where today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets. If your first $5 bet wins, head to FanDuel.com to get started today. On today's show, we will take a brief look ahead to the Cavs series against the Detroit Pistons that will begin on Tuesday. We will talk about exactly what we learned from the Cavs' win over the Toronto Raptors in 7 games and why I think they'll be better off for this series being a little bit longer than it probably should have been. But we begin with the Cleveland Cavaliers getting a 114-102 win over the Toronto Raptors in Game 7 on Sunday night at Rocket Arena. And this was a game that Jarrett Allen went out and won. And it's easy to look at, the way that the shortcomings of this series, if you will, that maybe it took a little bit longer than it should have. Like, I do think that had one or two things gone Cleveland's way in either Game 4 or Game 6, we're not having this conversation right now. But I do think that the Cavs really did find a way to dig deep and find a way to gut out a 7-game series against a Toronto Raptors team that I have to admit is better than I thought they were at the start of this series. I didn't think that the series would be all that difficult. The Cavs maybe underachieved, and the Raptors certainly did their part in this series. But the Cavs won this game for several reasons, but none of them is bigger than what Jarrett Allen was able to do. And Jarrett Allen has been, I think, the subject of maybe some unfair criticism at times. And I think the way that you talk about Jarrett Allen or you think about Jarrett Allen kind of depends on how you view him as a player. Like, I personally think that Jarrett Allen is a high-end role player. I think the Cavs have 3 star players on the roster. I think Donovan Mitchell's a star player, James Harden is a star player, and Evan Mobley's a star player. And Jarrett Allen is a high-end role player. He is somebody that you love to have on your team, but he is somebody that I think is a luxury. And he was luxurious, certainly in this game on Sunday night. But I think that you have to look at it like, okay, the expectations for him maybe have been at times a little bit overblown. But then to go out and watch what he did on Sunday night, where I think Jarrett has had some awesome games in his career, right? Like, he had the 40-point game in Portland earlier this year. He's been an all-star before. Like, he's been an awesome basketball player. And he's had better box score performances than what we saw on Sunday. But I have watched, like I said on the Instant Reaction podcast, I've watched every single game that Jarrett Allen has played as a member of the Cavs. And I watched a lot of them when he was in Brooklyn, too. I used to watch that Nets team a ton. I cannot remember at any point Jarrett Allen having a game with the impact he had in Game 7 or a quarter with the impact he had in that third quarter. In a game that, like I said earlier, featured Donovan Mitchell, James Harden, Evan Mobley, RJ Barrett, who wasn't great in this game, but he was awesome in this series. And Scotty Barnes, again, wasn't great in this game, but he was awesome in this series. And a game that featured all of those guys, Jarrett Allen was the one that went out there and just dominated. When you think about somebody taking over a basketball game, you typically think, oh, that this guy's going to go out and score 35. This guy's going to really heat up from beyond the arc. This guy is going to put points on the scoreboard. It doesn't always look like that. And I think what Jarrett did in that third quarter is the perfect encapsulation of what it looks like to dominate a basketball game without necessarily carrying the heaviest load as far as scoring goes. Now, in that third quarter, he had 14 points. He also had 10 rebounds. In the third quarter alone, Jarrett Allen had more rebounds than any member of the Raptors had for the entire game. And that, to me, speaks to why the Cavs won this game. Because Jarrett Allen went there and won every 50-50 ball, right? Like, we talked after Game 3, it was in Toronto, that first loss of the series, about how the Raptors were the team that played with more force. They were the team that wanted it more. It felt like they won every 50-50 battle. They got to every loose ball. Like, they did all those things. Jarrett Allen did that better than anybody else in this game. And for him to step up and do that, because he is always, and I think he's aware of this, he's always going to be subject of the lights were too bright, right? That infamous quote that he gave after the Cavs lost to the New York Knicks back in Donovan Mitchell's first year in Cleveland. And that's always going to pop up. But you could make a case, this was one of the biggest moments of Jarrett Allen's career. I don't know that the lights have been brighter than they were then Sunday night. And he stepped up. Like he picked a great time to have what I think is the best, most impactful game that Jarrett Allen has ever played. Again, he's had games where he scored more points. Certainly he's a lot of games where he scored more than 22 points. He's had a few games where he's had more than 19 rebounds. He has never had a game where he was as dominant or as impactful as he was in that third quarter. The Raptors had no answer for him in any way, shape, or form. Like even when he would miss free throws, because he went 8 of 14 from the line, he would get an offensive rebound and put the ball back up in it. Like there was a stretch where he had what I thought was a bad foul on a Colin Murray-Boyles dunk near the end of the third quarter. And then he gets fouled at the other end, makes the first free throw, misses the second free throw, but gets the offensive rebound and puts the ball in. And I don't know if there's anything that better describes what Jarrett Allen did in this game in terms of like impact and force and doing the dirty work and all those things that Jarrett Allen did on Sunday night. I don't know if there is a sequence that better describes that. Oh, and by the way, he had 3 blocks too. Like he was awesome. And there was the one sequence also in the third quarter where he blocks AJ Lawson on a dunk attempt and Colin Murray-Boyles gets the offensive rebound. And it felt like every time the Raptors got an offensive rebound in this game, and they only had 7 of them, the Cavs did a fantastic job on the glass, which is another reason why they won this game. They out-rebounded the Raptors 60-33 on Sunday, which is just an absurd number. But the Cavs had 5 blocks, and it felt like all 5 of them ended up in Toronto Raptors' hands. Like it felt like that's how they got offensive rebounds, was on block shots, and not all offensive rebounds are created equally, and I think that those ones probably matter a little bit less. But he blocks AJ Lawson at the rim, and then Colin Murray-Boyles gets the ball and he goes up for a layup and he blocks that shot too. Like he was so impactful on both ends of the floor on a night where the Cavs really needed it. Because I think Evan Mobley had been really good in this series, and we'll talk about him coming up in a little bit, but he was in foul trouble. He could not be as effective as he probably should have been because he only played 27 minutes because he finished with 5 fouls. So Jarrett Allen needed to step up. And Jarrett Allen did step up. And I think that this game is a reminder, which we have had several throughout this year, more so since James Harden got here. But it is a reminder that the Cavs are at their best when they play through their bigs. And Cleveland's record is outrageous when Jarrett Allen attempts at least 10 field goals. He had not had 10 field goal attempts, I don't believe, in any of the first 6 games. He had 11 on Sunday. And I think that's a big reason why the Cavs were able to get going offensively, because they played through Jarrett Allen. They played through Evan Mobley when he was on the floor. And they are that much more difficult to defend when they do that. They were able to get to spots that they want to be in. And Jarrett Allen, the performance he had, like you cannot say enough about it. And the ferocity in which he played with, I think is the thing, because he's not always going to have 22 and 19. It's not a fair expectation. But if he can bring this same level of ferocity every single night, I don't know how many playoff games the Cavs are going to have left. They could have 4 more left, which I think is very unlikely, or they could play as many as 21 more playoff games if every game's a 7-game series and they go to Game 7 of the finals. If Jarrett Allen brings this ferocity every single time that the Cavs play a game between now and whenever the playoffs are done for them, the Cavs are going to be a really, really difficult team to beat. Because this version of Jarrett Allen just brings a whole new dimension to the Cavs. They're better defensively. They're better offensively. Even the dunk he missed on the first possession of the game where I think he tried to dunk the ball through the floor. It was done with such a ferocity. It's like, okay, that was missed, but like it felt like Jarrett Allen had a little something extra. And he did. He was so good throughout this game. And then even at the end, telling RJ Barrett to go home. And Jarrett is one of the nicest guys in basketball. He's a very, very nice guy off the floor. He has always been nice to the media. I've never heard him like say a bad word about anybody on or off the record. So for him to play with that edge, I think changes who he can be as a basketball player. And that's why this was such a big performance from him. And in a game like this, you always need somebody to step up, and you don't always know who it's going to be. You can count on your stars to bring something, but you're going to see role players. Like early on, I thought Jamal Shed was going to be the guy that there was a time in this game I thought the Cavs were going to lose. And I thought the Cavs are going to lose because of Jamal Shed. Now, obviously, he cooled off, and I think he made 5 of his first 8 field goal attempts and missed the next 8 or something along those lines. But he had a really good start. And for the Cavs, it was Jarrett Allen. It was Sam Merrill. It was Max Strus. It was Jalen Tyson. We'll talk about those 3 guys coming up a little bit later. But you need somebody to step up in a Game 7 when the lights are the brightest, and that is exactly what Jarrett Allen did in this game. And that's why I think there's so much to be encouraged about that. Like, again, 22-19, not a fair expectation. But the mentality that he played with in this Game 7, that is something that can be replicated on Tuesday when the Cavs go to Detroit, on Thursday in Game 2 in Detroit, when the Cavs get back next Saturday for Game 3. Like, that is something that can be replicated every single time he steps on the floor, and the Cavs are going to be better for that. And I think that is a really important thing to take away. One of the other things that the Cavs did really well in this game was they took care of the basketball in a manner that they hadn't over the past several games against the Raptors. Now, they still had 16 turnovers, which is a smidge too many, but it's much better than the 22 that they had in, I think it was Game 3, and the 20 that they had in Game 4. They did a better job of taking care of the basketball. And not all turnovers are created equal. And somebody in the Inside Shot Substack chat that I run during Cavs games mentioned that if Donovan and James combined for 7 or fewer turnovers, they felt very confident the Cavs would win. Donovan had 2, James had 2. And that, to me, was one of the things that needed to happen, and those guys did a great job taking care of the basketball. Was this the best Donovan Mitchell performance we've seen? No. 22 points on 20 shots, not super efficient. I'm sure he's very excited to face a team that's not the Toronto Raptors, and we'll talk about what that might look like against the Detroit Pistons in segment number 3. Was James Harden awesome in this game? No, I thought he was solid, though I didn't think that this was bad. I know that there's a lot of talk about James Harden's Game 7 performances historically, and I know that he only shot 3 of 9 from the floor, but he got to the line 13 times. He had 18 points on 9 shots. So, he didn't shoot a great percentage, but 18 points on 9 shots, it's pretty efficient. You'll take that. Also, 6 boards, 3 assists, had 3 steals, too. I thought his defensive effort really throughout this series was a really underrated thing. I thought he did a good job for them. It's not perfect. It never is. But I thought for the most part, defensively, he had a good series against the Raptors. And I'm really curious to see how that translates to a series against the Detroit Pistons coming up starting on Tuesday. I also did think, and this was something that I sort of predicted, I think the Raptors ran out of gas. Now, maybe it was not having Emmanuel quickly, and I'm not convinced that he is somebody that fundamentally changes the outcome of this series, because the Raptors gave the problems to the Cavs defensively, and Emmanuel quickly I don't think could have done that. And I think that some of their more impactful defenders would have played less had quickly been available. And Brandon Ingram, who was good at 0 points during this series, did not play in this game either. But again, I'm not sure that a guy who the Raptors were better when he was off the floor than on the floor necessarily changes the outcome of this game, especially when you consider they won a game without Brandon Ingram in Game 6 back on Saturday. But the Raptors wore down in this series. And I think it's worth noting that in Games 5, 6, and 7, which Cleveland went 2-1, and the one loss was on a miracle 3-point shot. In those 3 games, in the second half and overtime, the Raptors combined to go 11 of 50 from beyond the arc. So we can have a conversation about Cleveland's 3-point defense maybe not being as good as you would like it to be. But when it mattered most, and part of this certainly is tired legs on Toronto's part, but when it mattered most, the Cavs stepped up defensively. I thought in this game on Sunday, they played a really, really strong defensive game. They held the Raptors to 26 in the first, and they made some tough shots. They were 3 of 6 on threes, 23 in the second, 19 in the third. In that third quarter, the Raptors had 5 turnovers and 5 made field goals. You will take that 100% of the time. The only reason the Raptors scored 19 points is because they hit 8 free throws. That is it. The Cavs defensively were so good in this game. And one of the things I asked Kenny Atkinson prior to the game was, after Game 6, I asked James Harden what the difference in the fourth quarter was of that game, because they held Toronto to 12 points in the fourth quarter of Game 6. said it was a mentality shift. And I asked Kenny Atkinson, okay, how do you get your team to have that mentality from the start of this game? And that's exactly what happened. It wasn't always perfect, but I do think that even when the Cavs played tight and tense early on in this game, because they did do that, I thought defensively they were on point. I thought they moved well. I thought they did a lot of things. I thought they communicated well. Like, this was, to me, a really strong defensive performance. And I think that is something that there is to be really happy about. Now, we learned a lot of things about the Cavs over the course of this full 7-game series. Evan Mobley, I thought, really stepped up to the plate. I thought Jalen Tyson acquitted himself as a playoff player. And I think we learned some stuff about the Cavs' mental toughness. We'll talk about that stuff next right here on Locked on Cavs. But first, today's show is brought to you by BetterHelp. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's an important reminder that whatever you're carrying right now, you don't have to go through it alone. Life can feel overwhelming sometimes, whether it's stress, uncertainty, anxiety, or just trying to manage everything that's on your plate. And it's easy to feel like you need to figure it out by yourself. Well, therapy can be a place to get support, gain perspective, and talk through things with someone who's there to listen and to help. BetterHelp connects people with licensed therapists and makes it easier to get matched with someone who fits your needs and your goals. A lot of us probably have moments where we stress or have uncertain things that can keep us up at night. It helps remember that asking for support is a strength. It's not a weakness. And Mental Health Awareness Month is a good time to check in with yourself and really ask how you're doing. BetterHelp has helped millions of people connect with licensed therapists, and the matching process is designed to help you find someone who works for you. You don't have to be on this journey alone. Find support and have someone with you in therapy. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. That is BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedonnba. Today's show is also brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. If you've got a sweet tooth like I do, and boy, do I have a sweet tooth, you know how tough it is to find that perfect treat without all the sugar. That's why the Fruity Rainbow 5 Hour Energy Shot brings that nostalgic flavor back in a whole new way. Fruity Rainbow 5 Hour Energy Shots treat your taste buds to an explosion of fruity flavor with a tasty caffeine kick. It's a quick, easy way to satisfy that sweet craving while keeping things simple and on the go. It's a zero sugar treat that's sweet tooth approved. Trust me on this one. It is sweet tooth approved, and I would know because I've got a sweet tooth. It's convenient too. It's a small portable shot. Like, it's not that piping hot cup of coffee that can kind of be a pain to carry around, or an energy drink in a ginormous can that can also be a pain to carry around. 5 Hour Energy is as convenient as it gets. So get candy flavored chaos with Fruity Rainbow 5 Hour Energy Shots, available online at 5hourenergy.com. That's the number 5, HOUR energy.com, or on Amazon today. Thank you again for making this edition of Locked on Cavs your first watch on YouTube or your first listen every single day. And if you do listen to the show every single day, the Everydayer Club is for you. You get ad-free versions of the show, plus exclusive Discord access as well. A link is in the show notes if you would like to learn more. The Cavs did grow a lot in this series, I think. The team that exits this series and heads to Detroit on Tuesday for Game 1 of the Eastern Conference semifinals, I think is a different team than the one that played Game 1 against the Toronto Raptors over 2 weeks ago now at Rocket Arena on a Saturday afternoon. I think the Cavs have grown mentally, because this is a team that for a long time has had to hear about how they're soft. And was this perfect? Absolutely not. I think a team that is stronger mentally probably finds a way to win Game 4. I think a team that's stronger mentally might find a way to win Game 6. But I think the fact that the Cavs responded to both of those games, where in Game 4, they collapsed. It was a disaster. And I think it would have been really easy for them to, when they're down by, I believe it was 10 points, if I have the box score right here. Actually, the box score is over here. When they're down by 12 points in Game 5 at home in a series tied 2-2 after they had lost 2 straight games, I think it would have been really easy for them to not find a way back into it. Instead, what do? They find a way back into the game, and they ultimately find a way to win that game because they dominated down the stretch. And then in Game 6, they struggled for most of the night, and they had an excellent fourth quarter, and they find their way back into this game, and they go into overtime, and they lose on what is a remarkable, miraculous, however you want to describe R.J. Barrett's game winner in Game 6. It was a heartbreaker for the Cavs. I don't think that they were necessarily like devastated in the locker room afterwards. I think they were frustrated they lost that game. But that can be a tough thing to overcome. Because at a certain point, and it's not just the way Game 6 ended, it's when you combine Game 6 with Game 4, I think that it can sort of seep into your head. Maybe this isn't our series. And the Cavs didn't allow that to happen. And even when they trailed this game, Game 7, by 10 points in the first quarter, they could have allowed that to snowball. And they didn't do that. So am I going to sit here and say that the Cavs are the mentally toughest team that I've ever seen? No, we're not there. But do I think it's fair to say that they've taken a step forward in that regard? I absolutely do. I think that this is a team that has grown mentally. And I think that going through this adversity is something that is going to make them much better. I think it's going to make them much more prepared for the rest of their postseason. Because it's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows. It's not always going to be dandy, right? They're going to lose another game. They're not going to sweep the Pistons and then sweep the Knicks or the Sixers and then sweep the Thunder or the Spurs or the Wolves or the Lakers. That's not going to happen. They're going to lose again at some point. They're probably going to lose multiple games in a series at some point. They might even face elimination at some point. But they've been through it a little bit now. And I think winning a game in which your season is over if you don't come through, especially when you're down by double digits and it's angsty in that building, it takes some mental fortitude. And I think that the soft stuff with the Cavs, I know it's not going to go away from everybody, but I think that they did a really good job, both from a physical and mental aspect in this series of answering the call over and over and over again. It wasn't perfect. They can be better. This should have been a shorter series. But the fact that so many things didn't go their way and they still found a way to get it done, I think says a lot about where this team is at mentally. And I think that's a really important thing as we look ahead. Two other things to come out of this series. I think I'm higher on Evan Mobley now than I was at the end of the regular season. Like, he had a good regular season. It was not a great regular season. Like, I do think it was below what I expected Evan Mobley to be this year. He did not have as good of a regular season as I thought he would. But if you're giving out a series MVP, Evan Mobley probably wins it. Because Donovan had a great first couple of games, and he was fine in Game 7. He wasn't the best version of Donovan Mitchell, and I do expect him to be much better against the Pistons, and we'll talk about that why coming up in a little bit. But Evan was really, really good in Game 1. He was really, really good in Game 2. He had two stinkers. Games 3 and 4, he was not good whatsoever. Game 5, he was the Cavs' best player in a win. In a Game 5 win, tied 2-2. I know how good Dennis was in that second half in that fourth quarter, but Evan Mobley was Cleveland's best player in that game. Game 6, you can make the case Evan Mobley was the best player on the floor in Game 6. And then in Game 7, he played well. He didn't have an awesome game. Certainly not as good as his last two were. But a big part of it was he was in foul trouble. He only played 27 minutes in this game because he finished with 5 fouls, but had 13 points on 5 of 7 shooting. Hit a 3. He wraps up this series 9 of 23 on threes. That's a big deal. Because if Evan Mobley, and I think that his shot looks better right now than it has at any point, and it's not just because it's going in, but he's making his free throws too, although he was just 2 of 4 on those tonight. But I think that if he's shooting the ball like this, the Cavs become much more challenging to defend. You have to respect Evan Mobley. If he's going to take them confidently the way that he is, I think that defenses are going to have to respect him. And I think that is going to make the Cavs so much more challenging to stop when they're on offense. So I'm fascinated to see if that keeps up, because if he keeps shooting like this, if Evan Mobley has another series where he makes 9, 10, 11 three-pointers, the Cavs are not losing that series. They're not. That makes them at least not to an Eastern Conference team. If that happens against the Thunder or the Spurs, okay, maybe that's different. I don't know. But none of the teams left in the East, if Evan Mobley's shooting the ball like this, and that is far from a given, the Cavs are going to win that series. And then lastly, the other thing that I wanted to say here, I think you learn about role players in big moments. And I know I mentioned this on the Instant Reaction podcast, but Sam Merrill's a playoff guy. He is not scared of the moment. He's going to step up. I thought he was awesome in this game. And I thought that, I know that he struggled shooting early in the series, and I know that his hand is bothering him. But he is a dude you want in your corner. He is. He's a gamer. He's a playoff guy. He is a 16-game player. And I think that he is such a different player right now because of all the things that he can do. Like, he can attack off the dribble. I think he's a better defender. Like, I really think Sam has grown over the last 12 months as a basketball player. And then Jalen Tyson, too. This is, for all intents and purposes, his first playoffs. Like, he was not in the rotation last year. Obviously, he was around, but, like, it's just different when you're being counted on to go out and play almost 20 minutes in a Game 7. He didn't have the best game. He was 3 of 8. Did hit a 3, but he had 9 rebounds, 7 points. Like, Jalen Tyson, to me, is only going to get better. And he looked a little wobbly, I think it's fair to say, in the first couple of games. Like, lights are brighter. Bigger moment here. And then once he made that first 3 in Game 2, he was able to, like, take a deep breath. And you could almost, like, see him lose 20 pounds instantly. Where he's just like, oh, this is basketball. Like, it just looked normal to him. And then for him to play the way he played in Game 7, like, I thought that he gave them a huge boost. Obviously, Max was fantastic in this game from an impact standpoint, but I don't think that was some unexpected thing. I expect Max Strus to do that because Max Strus, to me, is fearless. Like, that is who Max is as a basketball player. And I look at that and say he did what I expected him to do. I thought he would have shot the ball a little bit better, but he played the way that I expected Max Strus to play, and that's a really important thing. Now, the Cavs are going to take on the Detroit Pistons in the Eastern Conference semifinals. Game 1 is set for Tuesday night in Detroit. We are going to do a very, very quick preview on this show right now, and then we will have an extended preview on tomorrow's edition of Locked on Cavs. So let's talk a little bit about the Detroit Pistons next right here on Locked on Cavs. But first, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here. Every possession matters, and if you're looking to get even closer to the action, FanDuel has a great offer to get you started. Because right now, new FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's right, turn $5 into $150 in bonus bets just for getting started. FanDuel during the playoffs is awesome because everything you need is right there in one place. You can check the stats, the trends, the matchups, all of it before making your picks, which makes the whole experience feel a lot more informed. Whether you're looking at player props or just following your favorite stars, it adds a whole nother level of excitement to every single game. Cavs open up in Detroit, like I said, on Tuesday night, and they open up as 3.5-point underdogs against the Pistons. Now, the Cavs in Game 1, you can expect a lot out of Donovan Mitchell. He scored 30-plus in 9 straight games. Can the Cavs get it done against a Piston team that should be pretty exhausted after their own 7-game series, having to come back from down 3-1 against the Orlando Magic? I think they're going to start with a win. We'll have to wait and see, but you can head on over to FanDuel.com today to get started. That's FanDuel, FanDuel.com today to get started. FanDuel, play your game. Today's show is also brought to you by Rugiet. Not only are the NBA playoffs here, but the NHL playoffs are here, where every shift matters, every moment is intense, and the pressure is at its highest. Right now, the team I'm watching in the NHL playoffs, my Minnesota Wild. Yeah, I bet you didn't think I was going to say that. I bet you didn't think that. My Wild had a thrilling first-round series against the Dallas Stars, finally getting a win. That basically, like, that win in the playoffs is the equivalent, if you know your hockey history here, and I just want to talk puck for a minute here. It's like the Browns beating the Ravens in the playoffs. Like, that is what it meant to those people in Minnesota. I used to live there, so that's why I claim the Wild as my team. And just like the performance matters on the ice, matters off the ice too. That's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet offers treatments designed to help you get ready and stay ready when it matters. Their top option, Rugiet Ready, combines clinically proven ingredients in a simple mint that dissolves under your tongue. It's all about confidence and feeling like yourself again. So head to Rugiet.com/lockedonnhl and get 15% off your ED treatment. That's Rugiet, RUGIET.com/lockedonnhl for 15% off. Rugiet, performance medicine for men. Thank you again for making this edition of Locked on Cavs your first watch on YouTube or your first listen anywhere you might get your podcast. Please hit that thumbs up button or click subscribe on YouTube if you've not done so already. And the Cavs will take on the Detroit Pistons in the Eastern Conference semifinals. This best of 7 series will begin, I imagine, at 7:12 p.m. exactly inside Little Caesars Arena on Tuesday night. And I am really interested in a few things. And we'll dive deeper on tomorrow's edition of Locked on Cavs, but I wanted to briefly talk about this. I am fascinated because statistically speaking, the Raptors were the number 5 defense in basketball this past year. The Detroit Pistons were number 2, behind only Oklahoma City. And I don't think that stylistically, the Pistons and the Raptors are the same. Now, Scotty Barnes is an awesome defender, and Asar Thompson is a fantastic defender. He's one of the best perimeter defenders in basketball. I believe he finished 3rd for Defensive Player of the Year for that award. Isaiah Stewart, fantastic rim defender. They've got some guys that really get after you on the perimeter. They've got some guys that really get after you. Like, they are a team that is tough. They're physical. They, to me, look a lot like the Cavs prior to Kenny Atkinson's arrival. And that shouldn't surprise you because the same guy is coaching them. They, to me, look like the Cavs team that lost to the Knicks in the first round. I'm not saying that it's 1-1, but that Cavs team was the number 1 team defensively in the NBA that year. This Pistons team, number 2, behind what I think is a historically good Oklahoma City defense. But the question I have, as we dive into this a little bit, is can the Pistons replicate what the Raptors did defensively? Can they top lock Donovan Mitchell and James Harden for 94 feet for 48 minutes a game? I'm not sure that they have the personnel. Now, I do think that they have like a singular perimeter defender better than what Toronto has. I think Asar Thompson is a better perimeter defender than Scotty Barnes or Jacoby Walter or Jamal Shed. Like, I just think he's better at that than those guys are. But they only have one of them. And I don't know that they have other guys that you look at and say, that guy can shut down Donovan Mitchell while also someone else is trying to shut down James Harden. I don't know that the Pistons can do that. And I also look at their starting lineup, which typically for them is Cade Cunningham, Asar Thompson, Duncan Robinson, Tobias Harris, and Jalen Duren. Now, Jalen Duren did not have a good series against the Magic. I'm really interested to see who wins the battles of the bigs, because if the Cavs win the battles of the bigs, this is not going to be a series in Detroit's favor, I don't think. But it's also, how does Detroit line up defensively? Who does Duncan Robinson guard? My guess would be Dean Wade. Get ready to be put in pick and roll a lot. Who does Asar Thompson guard? Is he going to try and take Donovan Mitchell out of this series? If he does, we are going to see a ton of James Harden pick and roll against the Detroit Pistons. Or does he defend James Harden, try and eliminate that, and make Donovan Mitchell beat them? If he does that, I think Donovan Mitchell is going to have a infinitely better series against the Pistons than he did the Raptors. And I look at things on the other end, and I am a big advocate for putting Dean Wade in the starting lineup. I know it didn't look great at all times on Sunday night. It did look really, really good in the second half. But I also think, okay, he has to defend Cade Cunningham. He is the guy to defend Cade Cunningham. And he has a lot of good history. I think he has held Cade to a 27 true shooting percentage over the past couple of years when defending him. But I also think that the Cavs are built to, or they have the personnel to slow down Detroit's already not great offense. The Pistons are not a good shooting team. They don't have a lot of guys offensively that can hurt you. Tobias Harris had a fantastic Game 7, had a really good first round. Duncan Robinson's a really good shooter. I'm not sure he can stay on the floor. But Cade Cunningham makes them go. And this year, Cade was defended mostly by 2 guys, and it wasn't Dean. He was defended by Jalen Tyson a lot. He was defended by Evan Mobley. Not quite as much, but a good chunk. Against those 2, Cade went 9 of 33 from the floor. Against Tyson, he went 5 of 18 and turned the ball over 5 times. So I think that the Cavs have a few different options defensively. I think they should start with Dean. But if Kenny Atkinson wants to go away from that, Jalen Tyson's the guy that should be in the starting lineup because he has had success against Cade. Now we'll have to see how much that can translate to the postseason because it's a different game. We all know that. We learned that in this series. But I think a fun series is ahead, and I haven't dug as deep into it as I'd like, but I'm going to pick the Cavs to win this series in 6 games. I'll tell you why tomorrow, because we will have a full preview of Cavs and Pistons right here at Locked on Cavs. You can find this show the same place you find all your other podcasts. That's Apple, that's Spotify, and that's on YouTube as well. And if you're watching on YouTube as we get out of here, please do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button for me, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked on Cavs content. And I will be back tomorrow, full preview of Cavs and Pistons in round 2.